It's November 2023, which means Doctor Who is now 60 years old. And for this milestone anniversary, David Tennant has returned to his most beloved role. Let's talk about the Star Beast, the first of 3 celebratory specials. This honest review will contain bags of spoilers ahead, so you have been warned. Check out horrorexchange.com for merchandise, but for now, it's been a long time coming, so let's get into it. With Russell T Davies back in the hot seat after some brilliant projects like It's a Sin and Years, plus a genius pop culture casting of Ncuti Gatwa en route, bringing back the joint most popular Doctor of all time for a short spell to reignite the fan base and whet their appetites, was one of the smartest promotional decisions possible. There's been more buzz around the show recently than since probably the early Matt Smith era, which is great to see. But does the Star Beast deliver something that capitalizes on that potential? Well, let's start with a little context. The Star Beast is a refreshing episode in the sense that it taps into the Doctor Who comics by adapting the 4th Doctor comic of the same name, and that was an inspired choice. Doctor Who has an entire universe of stories beyond television, so for the show itself to reference those parts of Doctor Who's history was a lovely idea to acknowledge those storytelling mediums. And that means we not only get a proper TV story for the Wrath Warriors, who looked amazing, but also a cult favourite creature Beep the Meep for the first time, who also looked amazing. You can tell the production value of the show has boosted up yet again. Catherine Tate returns as Donna Noble, carrying on from the subplot from Journey's End and The End of Time, where Donna, remembering the Doctor and their adventures, will kill her. Yet something strange is drawing alien craziness and the Doctor towards her, and this is the mystery the 14th Doctor needs to unravel. Speaking of the 14th Doctor, I do quickly want to address Tennant's portrayal here. He plays the 14th Doctor as the 10th Doctor, and I think it was the right choice to do that because there will be a lot of people watching these specials for the nostalgic factor of seeing David again. However, I would have loved to have seen him play the Doctor with different characteristics. Like, he may appear the same, but it's a new incarnation, so there could have been some scope to adjust his take on the character to differentiate the personalities of the 10th and 14th Doctors. However, keeping him similar made more sense for the ultimate goal of these specials, and admittedly it was lovely to experience him in full Doctor flow again for the first time since 2013, at least on screen. But actually it feels like the series itself is in full Russell era flow again, for better or worse. The way this episode began was like time travelling right back to the Tennant era. It literally didn't feel like any time had lapsed since 2010. The much jollier tone, Murray Gold's whimsical music, the rough and tumble of modern day London. It's been nearly 14 years since Russell's era came to an end, and yet it's felt like minutes. So for teleporting the loving audience back to the era, this one successfully pulled it off. However, I think that if anything, the Star Beast compiles a lot of different new series ingredients that I grew tired of many years ago and amplifies them once more. Many parts to this episode just felt like scabs of old wounds peeling off when I was hoping for some more progression. Things like the sheer overuse of the sonic screwdriver being one. It's unnecessary how many times this bloody thing is used for the most mundane reasons. The worst of which was rolling up a unit soldier's visor, which could have been lifted by hand. The sonic has always been a get out of jail card for writers, but here it just reminded me how fed up I am of it being used for the daftest purposes. Then there's the common new series issue of the monsters having very little to them despite great designs. The Wrath Warriors didn't really offer that much, though I did appreciate their voices being just like regular people voices, as if they're just some blokes in costumes. That was fantastic. It was like a proper throwback to classic series monster logic. And then Beep the Meep was brilliantly designed, with Miriam Margolyes as a great casting choice for the voice. But then the monster dynamic here is the Wrath Warriors are actually the good guys. The Meep is the baddie, with the big evil plan being a big dangerous thing going to destroy London and needs to be stopped. Again, it was like a paint-by-numbers plotline that's been rinsed by the show in the past. There's things in this episode to get nostalgic about, certainly, and some nice nods like the Doctor and Donna with the glass between them on the spaceship being a lot like the Doctor and Wilf in The End of Time, but I don't get nostalgic about common narrative threads brought back. Plus, there's the overall tone. Now, Doctor Who is indeed a family show, as it always has been, yet here I think there was a lot of pantomime silliness that 13-year-old me me would have probably loved, but 28-year-old me isn't that fussed about anymore, especially when that silliness overlaps with the very serious concept of Donna's potential death if she remembers. The entire intro hammers this point home seriously. The Doctor's chat with Unit Scientific Advisor Shirley hammers this point home seriously. The way the Doctor reacts when bumping into Donna in Camden hammers this point home seriously. The way Sylvia reacts hammers this point home seriously. If she remembers him, she will die. Cut to the Doctor literally showing off the sonic screwdriver and explaining it by name directly to Donna. Mate, what? You should be keeping out of the way as much as possible, keeping as elusive as possible, but decisions to talk about Wilf again in front of Donna or talk about his two hearts, or the Sonic scene made me question how concerned should I be about Donna as a viewer. It sucked the danger and the importance out of it all. And then we get onto how the burning of Donna's mind is actually addressed. Now I will say this, after the uproar concerning Davros with the Children in Need special, which personally I think was definitely uncalled for, I am absolutely expecting plenty of people to be up in arms about parts of this episode. We get Donna's daughter formally being male presenting, we even get discussions about the Doctor's gender switching, we tap into multiple cultures of people, Shirley is a wheelchair user. Now before I go into this point, I am by no means going to target these parts of the story in a negative sense. The reason I'm addressing them is just to contextualise that I understand Russell T Davies is all for progression of these real life movements, and he's presented them in various other projects. I was expecting these moves to be made in Doctor Who in line with us having Jodie as the first female Doctor. Progression has allowed Doctor Who to move with the times while equally being timeless. I don't have any qualms about these decisions. There is, however, one piece of the story that did bewilder me, though not for political or personal reasons, purely science fiction reasons, and it's something that I can trace back to previous examples in the new series. Donna and Rose sharing the Metacrisis affliction so that both of them have bits and pieces of the Dr. Donna abilities, that I am fine with. Some of that energy passes down so that Donna doesn't get the full blast of the energy when she remembers, and Rose gets a little bit of that Dr. Donna spark as well. The reason of this energy transfer being like a biological passing down, I'm fine with, because there's, as I say, a biological reason, there's a scientific attachment to it. However, we get the explanation here of this transfer being because of the dichotomy of binary and non-binary, because when Donna goes mental as the Dr. Donna, she famously says the word binary lots of times, and then now Rose identifies as non-binary. That binary non-binary balance, that's the reason energy is displaced. It was almost like magic, and not in a good sense. It's like when James Corden as Craig prevented being converted into a Cyberman, a physical process which in closing time he was midway through being turned into a Cyberman by machinery. It was because of love. The literal explanation was he defeated the Cybermen with love. That's how he got out of it. Like, emotions have genuine physical power that can impact things literally on like a physics level. It's the same here, like how this literal physical energy is offset by the way Rose identifies in terms of gender, or in Donna's case, a word she said once that is part of her remembering. But where do we draw the line between thoughts and physics in science fiction? Then when Donna and Rose get rid of the Metacrisis energy by holding hands and simply choosing they don't want it anymore, and it goes away just like that, it felt quite preachy to me. Russell T Davies era for another example, The Last of the Time Lords, where everyone around the world thinks of the word doctor at the same time, and that causes the Doctor to literally de-age. That was something which felt quite preachy to me as well. My personal criticism here isn't targeted at Rose being non-binary, not in the slightest. It's the way in which emotions still continue to have this way of coming across like they are superpowers. Doctor Who is science fiction, yet these creative decisions in the new series have always felt off to me, making the show feel more like unbelievable magic than believable science. On the whole, I thought the Starbeast was quite a strange watch. It felt familiar, but not in a wholly good way. Instead, it kind of brought me back to remembering some of the things I don't enjoy about Doctor Who, rather than highlighting the reasons I do. I am hoping that this is just because the Starbeast is the first of 3 specials. It does indeed feel like a series opener above above all else. So I hope that Wild Blue Yonder and The Giggle provide us with stronger stories, but on the whole, as nice as it was to see David and Catherine again, as well as Sylvia, who I think is ace, generally speaking, this one didn't offer me a lot of rewatch value, as its monster narrative felt like I'd already seen it while I was watching it for the first time. That's just what I think though. What did you think? Let me know, and I'll see you next week with my honest review of Wild Blue Yonder. Cheers out.